This is TOEFL IBT speaking test, and this test evaluates your ability to communicate in English in an academic setting. It consists of 4 tasks. Task 1, express an opinion on a familiar topic. Listening, campus conversation. Student A, did you hear about the big renovation plan for the dorms? It sounds like they're finally doing something about those old buildings. Student B, yeah, I heard. It's about time. The heating in my dorm barely works in the winter, and the bathrooms really need to be fixed. I think these updates will make living on campus a lot better. Student A, maybe, but I'm worried about the higher housing fees. I mean, it's great that alumni and grants are helping pay for it, but even a small fee increase can be tough for some students. Student B, that's true, but they did say the fees wouldn't go up much. Plus, we'll get better facilities, like study lounges and fitness rooms. It seems like a fair trade-off to me. Student A, I guess so, but I'm also concerned about the dorm closures. Where are all the students going to live while construction is happening? Student B, good question. They mentioned alternative housing, but I wonder if it'll be convenient or if students will have to move far from campus. Student A, that's what I'm worried about, too. I just hope they plan it well so it doesn't cause too much trouble. Listening, Professor's Lecture. In today's lecture, I'd like to elaborate on intrinsic and extrinsic motivation using a couple of examples. Let's start with intrinsic motivation. Imagine a child who loves reading simply because they enjoy exploring new stories and ideas. This child might spend hours immersed in books, not because anyone told them to, but because they genuinely love it. Now let's contrast that with extrinsic motivation. Think about an employee who works long hours to earn a promotion or a bonus. In this case, they are driven by external rewards rather than the enjoyment of the work itself. But here's the thing, these two types of motivation can interact. For instance, let's say that same child who loves reading is given a prize for finishing the most books in a month. At first, the prize might enhance their reading habits, but over time, they might start focusing more on the reward and less on the enjoyment of reading. This is something we call the overjustification effect. It happens when external rewards reduce intrinsic motivation for an activity. That's why educators and managers need to be careful. Rewards can be useful in the short term, but they shouldn't overshadow a person's internal drive. Task 4, Integrated Speaking Task, Academic Lecture, Listening, Professor's Lecture. Today, we'll be discussing symbiosis, a biological interaction where two different species live in close association and at least one benefits. There are three main types of symbiosis: mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. First, let's talk about mutualism. This occurs when both species benefit from the relationship. A good example is bees and flowering plants. Bees collect nectar from flowers to make honey, and in the process, they pollinate the plants, enabling them to reproduce. Both species gain something essential to their survival. Next is commensalism, where one species benefits while the other is neither helped nor harmed. For instance, think about barnacles that attach themselves to whales. The barnacles get a free ride, giving them access to more food in the water as the whale swims, but the whale isn't affected. Finally, we have parasitism, where one species benefits at the expense of the other. A common example is ticks feeding on a host animal, like a dog. The tick gets nutrients from the dog's blood, but the dog can suffer harm, such as irritation or even disease. It's important to note that these relationships aren't always static. For example, a relationship that seems mutualistic might shift if environmental conditions change. Understanding these dynamics is crucial in fields like ecology and conservation biology because they reveal how species interactions can influence ecosystems.
Sample answer: I prefer participating in team sports because they help develop better communication and collaboration skills. In team sports, players must work together, share strategies, and coordinate their efforts to achieve common goals. For example, in basketball, teammates communicate constantly about passes, defense, and scoring opportunities, which helps the team perform better as a whole. This experience teaches individuals how to convey ideas clearly, listen actively, and adapt to others' perspectives. Additionally, team sports foster a sense of camaraderie and mutual support, which are valuable in both personal relationships and professional environments. These skills are not only crucial for success in sports but also translate into effective teamwork in various aspects of life. Sample answer: the students expressed differing views about the university's housing renovation project. The first student is in favor of the renovations, pointing out that upgrades like improved heating systems, better ventilation, and new study lounges will enhance the quality of life for students. They argue that these changes justify the slight increase in housing fees and will provide long-term benefits, such as a more comfortable and productive environment. They feel these improvements will attract more students to on-campus housing, creating a better overall community. The second student, however, is more cautious. While they acknowledge that the renovations are necessary, they worry about the temporary challenges, such as the closure of some dorms during construction and whether alternative housing options will be convenient and affordable. Additionally, they're concerned that even a small rise in fees might create financial strain for students who are already struggling with other expenses. I agree with the first student's perspective. While there may be short-term inconveniences, the long-term benefits of upgraded housing outweigh the drawbacks. Enhanced facilities, such as better heating and study spaces, create a more comfortable and supportive living environment, which directly impacts academic success and well-being. Moreover, investments like these can increase the value of living on campus, fostering a stronger sense of community. Sample answer: the professor provides clear examples to explain intrinsic and extrinsic motivation and how they interact. Intrinsic motivation comes from within and is driven by personal enjoyment or interest. For instance, she describes a child who reads books simply because they love exploring stories and ideas. This child finds the activity itself rewarding. In contrast, extrinsic motivation is influenced by external factors, such as rewards or recognition. An example the professor gives is an employee who works overtime to earn a promotion or a bonus. Here, the motivation comes from the desire for external benefits rather than enjoyment of the work itself. The professor also highlights how these two types of motivation can interact, especially through the overjustification effect. For instance, if the child who enjoys reading starts receiving prizes for finishing books, they might shift their focus from enjoying the stories to earning rewards. Over time, this external reward can reduce their intrinsic motivation, and they might only read for the prize. This interaction shows that while extrinsic rewards are helpful in encouraging behavior initially, relying on them too much can undermine a person's natural interest or passion. To maintain a balance, it's essential to use external incentives carefully, especially in education and workplaces, so they complement intrinsic motivation without replacing it. This balance is crucial for sustaining long-term engagement and performance. Sample answer: symbiosis, as explained in the lecture, refers to a close and long-term biological relationship between two species, where at least one benefits. The professor outlined three main types of symbiotic relationships: mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. In mutualism, both species benefit. A classic example provided was the relationship between bees and flowering plants. Bees collect nectar to make honey, while also pollinating the flowers in the process, which allows them to reproduce. Both the bee and the flower gain from this interaction, making it a mutually beneficial relationship. In commensalism, one species benefits while the other is neither helped nor harmed. The professor mentioned barnacles that attach themselves to whales. The barnacles get a free ride through nutrient-rich waters, which helps them gather food, but the whale is not affected by their presence, either positively or negatively. in parasitism, one species benefits at the expense of the other. An example provided was ticks feeding on a dog. The tick gains nutrients from the dog's blood, while the dog may experience discomfort, irritation, and even the risk of disease. In this relationship, the tick benefits, but the dog suffers. These examples illustrate how symbiosis can vary in its effects, from both species benefiting in mutualism to one species harming the other in parasitism. Understanding these different types of relationships is crucial because they help explain how organisms interact in ecosystems and how these interactions affect the survival and behavior of species involved.